The shooting spree erupted on Hunter Street at Dairy Farmers Corner on January 30 following a minor traffic incident. The gunman left his vehicle and fired a number of shots from a .357 calibre lever-action rifle at a four-wheel drive. The shots punctured a tyre and smashed the vehicle's rear window, narrowly missing the terrified woman driver as she attempted to escape. Other shots peppered nearby officers, but once again no one was injured. Police later arrested the man at a service station at Mayfield. 34-year-old Ian Scully Fletcher pleaded guilty to discharging a firearm in a public place. Justice Newman released him on a 3-year good behaviour bond after comparing the shooting incident to the Strathfield massacre, saying it was a miracle no one was hurt. In passing sentence, Justice Newman said Fletcher had been unhinged at the time of his actions and had not been taking adequate medication. He ordered him to obey a psychiatrist and take whatever was prescribed. Fletcher was also ordered never to touch a firearm again. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Coal provides almost half of State Rail's freight revenue and is the largest contributor towards export earnings of all Australia's commodities. The Coal Association's been campaigning for some time against what it calls excessive rates, which are not competitive by international standards. It's claimed that coal revenue is subsidising other areas of rail freight's operations. The Association's Executive Director Meredith Hellicar said today private access by long-term lease and private ownership and operation of rolling stock must be allowed, although control and maintenance would remain with State Rail for safety reasons. As part of overall reform, the Association calls for massive improvements in productivity throughout the rail system. It's called for talks with State Rail and the government, and while it's early days yet, Ms Hellicar says the Association is confident.
Some of those who braved the surf today at Merewether Beach quickly wished they hadn't. It wasn't the waves that were overpowering, but the smell. What's it like in the water?
Oh, it stinks. It just smells terrible.
It smells pretty bad. It's pretty dirty in the water.
The managing director of the Hunter Water Board, Paul Broad, assures swimmers the odour is not due to sewage. He says the brown stain in the water is algae. He also believes the recent heavy rain has washed rubbish out of stormwater drains and into the ocean. Jane Anderson, NBN News. Knight's Chief Executive Mike Armstrong today defended Winfield's sponsorship of the New South Wales Rugby League.
The right to choose a sponsor is very important to us. Winfield have helped the New South Wales Rugby League develop the game to its utmost, and we do not want to see that progress stopped.
The contract with the league is due to expire in 1995. If legislation is introduced banning cigarette companies from sponsoring sport, Mike Armstrong believes it will be difficult to find a replacement for Winfield.
Now, if we've got to go out and find another sponsor who is anywhere near as good as Winfield's been to us, that's going to be a very difficult job. So we can see a standstill or a retrogression in the advancement of the game.
Armstrong says the Knights will consider what action it will take against the proposal. Jane Anderson, NBN News. Under clear skies, more than 500 musicians from 10 bands entertained the crowd and their faithful friends during an all-day concert at Spears Point Park. The annual Community Bands Festival is organised by Lake Macquarie City Council and is in its 9th year.
A police launch, local surf club boats and the Westpac rescue helicopter joined the search off Terrigal Haven after frantic divers reported losing touch with one of their team after 8 p.m. The search continued throughout the evening as divers recovered first the missing man's torch, one fin and a bag. Some hours later, just before midnight, they discovered the body of 44-year-old Wyong restaurant operator Kun Pui Ru in about 10 metres of water. Divers are stunned by the death in a well-known dive spot, especially popular for night dives. Last night's death is the first diving incident in the region in more than 20 years, at a site that's regarded as a safe haven, especially by local and visiting diving schools. Local scuba diver Les Graham says the haven is a well-sheltered bay, protected by a breakwall even in rough conditions.
It's safe to go out along the inside of the wall and have a night dive. You can't really get lost. It's just a safe area for training dives and fun dives.
A post-mortem will be conducted at Glebe Coroner's Court tomorrow. The diver's equipment is also being examined at Water Police headquarters in Sydney. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Last Wednesday night, Marconi hit Foreman a big way at the expense of a much-depleted Breakers outfit, a ploy that may have cost the locals a win in the National League Cup, but gained valuable knowledge for the Breakers in terms of their bench strength and younger players with a future. Back in the side comes Andy Koska, Dominic Longo, Noel Barclay and midfield sensation Ian Heddle, plus last start man of the match John Kosh, and they will push Marconi all the way. After last weekend's washout of the Motordrome, double value for fans tomorrow night with the second round of the ISP Masters Super Sedan Series, and Don McEwen along with Bob Brewer will again be the ones to beat. Also returning will be the Kings of Wing sprint cars, and Brooke Tatnell threw down the gauntlet at the last outing to the more fancied runners. Catch me if you can. One man out for the youngster's growing reputation is current Australian champion Max Dumsney, and he will have the added pressure of knowing Gary Rush is starting to find form. Rounding out the program, a bash and crash demo derby with over $3,000 up for grabs. And the Newcastle Open snooker tournament again has attracted one of the hottest fields in the nation to chase the money.
We've got Stan Gorski, the world number 3. We have Dr. David Barron from Zimbabwe. He's a full-time national champion over there. We have Paul Bolzer, who recorded a 147 break in Interclub snooker 4 weeks ago, so he's in great form. We're expecting a lot of 100 breaks this weekend.
With that quality of player taking part, a big crowd is expected on both days.
This is about as close as you'll get to the set of Reckless Kelly with a TV camera. A blanket media ban is enforced by patrolling water bouncers and gatekeepers on the land. The film company has achieved the near impossible feat of building a hotel on the spectacular Tomaree headland. It bears a ramshackle resemblance to the Glenrowan Hotel and is home to Ned, an international bank robber who accidentally becomes a movie star. Newcastle's best-known filmmaker Yahoo Serious of Young Einstein fame plays the lead role and directs Reckless Kelly. The movie is running on a multi-million-dollar budget and is generating financial spin-offs for the Bay. Holiday lettings have been snapped up by more than 120 cast and crew, with shops, supermarkets and other services cashing in.
I think it's been very good for the whole area. So everybody, even accommodation, they've done very well out of it.
Shoal Bay has been unseasonably busy with a passing parade of curious film props and personalities, but spare a thought for the residents of Tomaree Lodge. The psychiatric hospital has had much of its grounds overtaken by the production and throngs of onlookers eager for a glimpse of movie making. Filming continues until the end of December and the crew then jets out for Hollywood. Reckless Kelly is due for release in a year's time.
With the swell still a consistent 1 metre, some of the country's best young surfers found plenty of room to move. Round 3 saw the appearance of 8 seeded competitors and they experienced mixed fortunes. Wollongong's Saul Baker, on the comeback trail following a shocking car accident, was eliminated by the Central Coast duo of Rob Lyons and Adam Leslie. Merryweather's Chad Edser was in fine form during the next heat, and he needed to be. The standard was exceptional, and Catherine Hill Bay's Glenn Valere pushed the young professional all the way. Narrabene's Joel Fitzgerald also served notice that he'll be a force to be reckoned with during tomorrow's final rounds when the top 16 seeds hit the water to decide the Australian Pro-Am crown. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
Norma Brennan was walking with her husband Les along Lakeside Drive at Swansea yesterday morning when she was attacked from behind by a blue cattle dog.
Up the next block I saw him on the corner, but I didn't ever realise that it'd come so quick to get me a block away. Slashed on the back of my leg. I didn't even know it was there.
The dog alleged to have been responsible has since been put down by a local vet, but late this afternoon police weren't sure if that was the right dog or not. The owners of the destroyed animals say they have witnesses who saw the attack and it wasn't their dog but another of the same breed. Police will conduct further investigations to determine whether the dog responsible is still roaming the streets. Mrs. Brennan should be up and about by the end of the week, but she is angry that such an incident was ever allowed to occur.
You should be allowed to walk along the footpaths or the road, the side of the road with no dogs to attack you.
For the past 2 years, ICI has been trying to have this tract of bush off George Booth Drive converted into a research and production facility for mining explosives. The corporate giant says the Mining Services Technology Park would create 90 new jobs and inject $18 million a year into the local economy. But some aldermen at Cessnock City Council want to know what ICI will give back to the community under Section 94 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. The council is seeking a contribution of more than $137,000 to upgrade George Booth Drive. But in a $250,000 package ICI is presenting to council tonight, the emphasis is on community facilities, including $25,000 for the Curry Area Rescue Service, $20,000 for the Curry Community Centre, and a $75,000 package for university scholarships for local students. But there's little mention of roadworks.
The road is a state government funded road and we don't believe that we should be contributing to that road.
Mayor Marie Callaghan says she's sympathetic to ICI's attitude to roadworks contributions.
I'm hoping there'll be some compromise. I'm hoping aldermen and the company's representatives will be able to sit down and come to an agreement.
But the mayor is concerned that if a compromise can't be reached tonight, the Mining Services Technology Park could be under a cloud.
These aluminium and plywood boxes will be going into the front line, designed to be used in any conditions in almost any place in the world. They will be used as movable workshops, air-conditioned, sunlight and dustproof. They're tough enough to be parachuted into a war zone despite the 1,200 kilogram weight. The Army has taken delivery of the first of 167 shelters, a contract worth $8 million. Varleys have been fighting their own war to get the deal, spending $750,000 over the last 4 years developing the shelter. and after stringent Army safety tests, the product has been accepted. The Defence Department has awarded a Quality Assurance Accreditation standard, giving Varley's a stamp of approval for future defence jobs. Now Varley's are looking to even greater heights.
That's actually an objective of the company. We're basically saying, OK, defence, we've done it, let's keep going and prove that we will.
Varley's are seeking accreditation from Lloyd's Register of Shipping to seek a general quality assurance for all their work and push the company's reputation even higher.
The proposal is part of the company's lead management plan. Health Department tests have shown that lead fallout from the plant is worse in 1st, 2nd and 3rd Streets, which are within 500 metres of the plant's main furnace. Pasminco has been told by the State Pollution Control Commission that it must reduce its airborne lead levels to a standard accepted by the National Health and Medical Research Council. That means in 1st Street alone, levels would have to be cut in half, a figure the company says it cannot achieve.
It's very difficult to maintain the ambient level of 1.5 when the operating plant is only some 100 to 130 metres from homes in 1st Street.
So I guess that's one reason to buy those homes.
Well, that's the main reason.
The purchase of those houses in the immediate area will create a buffer zone. Although an independent valuer will be brought in, the company estimates houses in the 3 streets are each valued at between $60,000 and $110,000. The company says it's too early to talk about what it will cost them, but taking an average price of $80,000, Pasminco could pay out around $4.5 million. According to David Sinclair, the company may either rent the houses to employees or demolish the properties, creating a green corridor. But all this depends on community reaction. Mr. Sinclair says each household will be approached individually and will be under no pressure to sell.
Although we see it as perhaps part of the action plan, we really need to see what the residents out there think of it.
While the proposal is still in its early stages, so far reaction from those residents affected has been positive.
For us, it's a good idea because we've been trying to sell our house for a while now and no one's interested.
Having children, young babies and that around here, it's really not a choice. You've just got to take the option of selling out because it's your kids' health that you're putting at risk if you do stay.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Ambulance rescue instructor Neville Marsden is training all 30 Hunter paramedics in the refinements of cliff face rescue. The officers are only in the first stages of training, but before the holiday season they'll be able to abseil to a patient and provide treatment on the scene.
If he comes onto an obstacle or gets to the bottom of the cliff and has to get him out of trouble, he must do it under his own power with the equipment he has.
Training includes emphasis not only on descending the cliff, but climbing back up unassisted using a technique called prusicking, as well as retrieving the patient if necessary. With increasing numbers of Australians visiting the Hunters parks and forests, ambulance paramedics are expecting a dramatic increase in the demand for specialised rescue.
In the last week or so, they've had a couple of along the coast where they've required access from the top down with people that have fallen, rock fishermen, and it goes on and on.
Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Although insiders have known for some time the clean-out was on, management had been denying it up until today, but was giving nothing away publicly about who'll be presenting the programs between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. tomorrow. Between dusk and dawn, 2NX broadcasts material relayed directly from 2UW in Sydney. Wooed from 2HD 6 months ago, Warwick Teese said this afternoon he's disappointed at his sacking, but understands his adult talkback style doesn't fit the station's new direction. 2NX is positioning itself for an assault in the ratings war by going to the FM band, hoping to attract listeners from the incumbent leader to New FM. Communications Minister Beasley's office said today that no announcement can be expected on more FM radio licences for Newcastle until mid-January. Already, 2NX and 2KO have said they want to convert, but at this stage, 2HD plans to stay where it is on the AM band.
"18-year-old Scott Lynch was left with agonising burns to 50% of his body after he drove a nail through a power cable. The Builders Workers Industrial Union claimed that Shortland Electricity was planning to add insult to injury by making Scott pay to replace the damaged cable. But that allegation was flatly denied at a news conference today.
The bills for the damages to Shortland's facilities and equipment are being served on the subcontractors, and I don't think that it's appropriate that the ratepayers ought to be asked to foot the bill.
Shortland executives say their employees acted according to Australian safety guidelines, but admitted the standards could be tougher.
There is always, I guess, room for improvement in everything you do, but the employees can only work to the guidelines that are laid down.
The BWRU says a protective pipe should be placed around the cables and has vowed to continue its attack on the County Council. It says the subcontractors involved are also union members and in no way responsible for the accident. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
Beethoven was deaf when he wrote Missa Solemnis, meaning solemn mass. It was a tribute to his chief patron, Archduke Rudolph of Habsburg, and took 3 years to write, sandwiched between the creation of his 9th Symphony. He died 3 years after it was first performed, never hearing the work that today, even in rehearsal, is recognised as a choral classic. Tomorrow night, the sound will be even bigger, with the woodwind and percussion sections of the orchestra entering the fray. More than 120 performers will be guided by the baton of choir musical director Peter Brock. Joining them, 4 of Australia's best voices: soprano Camille Murchep, contralto Loris Elms, tenor Gregory Massingham and bass Raymond Myers. The work was last staged in the Hunter 9 years ago, and this is likely to be the last chance to catch it for some time. Tomorrow night's performance at the university's Great Hall begins at 8 o'clock. There'll be tickets at the door, but they're likely to sell fast.